All right, nice.
I have a question on the minutes. On the
What-
CCTV main, this is a DEP mandate, but is it required service? Is it not a DEP mandate, but a required service? Or is it DEP mandate and required service?
It should actually be what I think I meant when I put that, it's a DEP mandate,
Okay.
Yeah.
but it's a service, not a capital
Oh,
thing.
oh, oh.
That's what my intention was there. I probably didn't word it as well
Nope,
as I
that's
could
okay.
have, but,
Understood now.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
It is a DEP mandate.
It's a
But
required service.
We're not gonna consider it as capital because it's a service, not a capital improvement.
Totally
Yeah.
understand now.
Yeah.
So the bar rack line, can you
Bar rack. Yep.
add in something that the bar rack is original? It just, like,
Yeah,
needs
it's-
daily
That
maintenance,
it's
let's say.
obsolete and,
Yeah.
yeah.
And when was this
Okay.
plant built, in the sixties or something?
Where was the bar rack line?
It's about,
Where am I not?
Halfway
Oh, replacement
down
of bar
the
rack,
road.
gotcha.
so just maybe it's original
Y-
equipment
okay.
or has exceeded useful life. All right, so I'll await a motion on minutes when everybody is ready.
Okay. So I'm gonna change that, I'm gonna add a sentence that says, this is original equipment which has exceeded its useful life.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Yep.
And so with that, anything? I'm just gonna pause for a second here.
Consideration of senior center, just spelling requests.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Don Twistak, aye.
Ray Capaco, aye?
Dan Tippett, aye.
Richi Hacker, aye.
Okay.
Okay, motion passes. All right, so I think, why don't we do the police department computer request? Because that was clarified. It's basically the same. It looks like just the detailed description might have been updated. With the fact that the tablets are almost $4,000 a piece.
Wow.
So that's 16,000 right there,
So
right?
one thing I
My
pulled
math
away
is
from
correct.
this, yeah, one thing I pulled away is they said that they have a lifespan of approximately 10 years.
Okay,
And the last update was 2018, so they really wouldn't need this till FY '27, if I'm reading that
sure.
properly. So in my mind, I'm pushing this out a couple of years, because this isn't a FY '25 need.
So maybe in 27, 28, 29, just so we're not pushing up against the, we could allocate, like a third. So call it 13,000 over a 3-year span.
I have the workbook pulled up.
Mhm. Yeah, you don't have anything in there for computer replacements.
Did I send it to you before I put that in there?
I don't know, it's blank. Line 12 in the spreadsheet?
Yeah. Oh, I have it in FY '27?
Nope, the whole line is blank.
I'm sorry.
Total estimated cost is there, 40 grand.
That's what I put, okay, that was there.
And then, yeah, the
Oh,
fiscal
I-
years are all blank.
I put it in FY '27,
Oh, the whole thing?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we'll see anything.
I'm sorry. I must have
No
sent it to you
problem.
before I.
Well, what about spreading it out, though, so we don't take such a big hit?
So, well, so on the whole, and I don't know if I want to talk about this now or after, I kind of looked at what everybody needed, taking a look at funding. I know we have to still go through priority ratings and all that, but I think we had a pretty good discussion about where we stood with a lot of the items. And my feeling on capital planning is that we should be taking it from the capital planning account
Mhm.
and then replacing that money with either free cash or other mechanisms to replace it for the following years.
Okay,
So I had put this all in '27 because we're not gonna expend it in '25, nor are we going to really put it into a special stabilization for '25, which is like the ambulance and the, what was it, the ambulance?
Truck.
fire
The-
truck.
The fire engine, the structural gear, and the ambulance, so large expenses
Mhm.
that I thought we probably should put into special stabilization and plug
Okay.
that away, but I don't think $13,000 is gonna make or break the capital planning account in any given year.
Okay, so I don't understand, though. But it's 40, you put all 40 in FY '27,
Right, because we know that that's gonna come up in '27.
okay?
So my thought process was to put in '25 what we wanted to have funding for in '25, whether it be through capital stabilization, free cash, special stabilization accounts if we have them available, or raise and appropriate or other, which would be debt.
Right,
So anything that we wish to get off the table in '25, that we want to do the projects in '25, I put in '25.
right, okay. I mean, that makes sense.
But that's just my way of thinking, because I don't think that we should be setting up a special stabilization account for a $40,000 item. That should just come out of capital as 40,000 when it's due, and just knowing that it's on our plate for 2 years from now.
As opposed to spreading it out over 3 years, though.
Right, exactly.
The expenditure, I'm talking.
Well, there's really no expenditure to, buy some now, buy some next year.
Yeah, so you buy a third of the computers in '27, a third in '28, and a third in '29. Right, because even though the totals at the bottom in the future years are lower, they're not gonna stay lower.
Right. I
There'll be
wasn't-
more requests.
There'll be more requests, so
Yeah,
they're
I
gonna
think-
go up, so if we
I wasn't
can spread a $40,000 hit over 3 years,
I just didn't know what the police department, like, do they need all of them to be on the same
I guess we'd have to
system?
find out.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, it probably
Yeah,
is,
I'm just in a capital planning meeting.
there probably
there
is
something-
a year that the whole request needs to
2008 is
happen.
the year they bought them, and
Right.
10 years from then, they have to replace them through
Right.
28.
Yeah, and I know if they all had to be on the same
They
system.
all have to be on the same system.
Yeah.
So are they all gonna be,
Yeah,
are there
but
gonna
what
be
do they
some that
do
are
if-
compatible or not compatible?
That doesn't make
I
sense,
don't
though. I mean,
know.
what if one breaks? You just go out and buy one, right?
No.
Is
Yeah,
it
but-
off the cycle?
You can't buy one. That's not the type of computers that they have in the cars. It's a special.
How do you get, so if you break one, you gotta
You
wait
have to go
until
back-
2028?
No, you have to go back through that vendor to get another one. You can get one within that time frame.
Right.
Okay, that's the same model as what you got now. What I'm saying is, you bought 10 in 2018. You're gonna have to replace 10 in 2028, so they all have the same software and hardware.
Okay, I guess that seems strange to me.
It all depends on the judicial system cycle when they change out their software.
Oh, all right. So you can't, and then you can't update midstream then either?
Depends on the judicial.
I mean, say, 2 years from now, that judicial software updates, then you wouldn't update all your computers, or?
Well, during the course of the term, that the lifespan of that system, the computer, there's constant updates that come out on all that software.
Okay, yeah,
So they get that automatically. But if like they lose a computer that gets destroyed or what have you, you go out and buy another one, it'll still have the same software in it for that year,
right,
okay? If you're gonna cycle it and take this computer in thirds, okay?
mm-hmm,
2 years, you bought it in 2018, and you buy a certain number in this year, and a certain number this year, a certain number this year, they're all gonna have different platforms.
okay. I guess I understand it, I don't know why that is a problem, I guess. Right? I mean, if I buy this laptop now, it's gonna be more updated, but it's just another processor and maybe even has the same RAM.
Right,
so.
but if you're going through, let's just use a regular standard computer. How often does Windows update, and how many times?
Once a month?
Okay, how many times do they send patches out and everything else, right? And now you're coming up on a useful lifespan for Windows for what? Windows 10 goes out of effect, now you got Windows, what? I don't know. Windows 11, Windows 12, Windows 13, they all have a certain amount of life in them. And then
Yeah.
they change it all out. Same thing with this, but it's on a different platform than Windows. I mean, they have Windows in the computer, but the platform, the base platform to run the police programs is different. It's not online with Microsoft or any of those others.
Okay. All right, so then we should just, I guess, stick it in whatever year it needs to be in then. So FY '28, right?
What did I put? I put 27, so they could purchase in 28,
Oh, okay.
just to make sure funding's available for them to purchase in 28. Because I don't know if they're talking FY '28 or calendar '28, when they said 2018.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
know.
why I put it for 27.
Yeah, okay. All right, so any questions on that? I think that's all set, right?
Okay.
So, next thing is Quabog School District. Pavement, two things of pavement, glycol and HVAC flushing, and then stairs/sidewalks. These are all priority one, well, I guess Quabog pavement is priority 2.
They have resurfacing pavement priority 1.
Yep,
That's Schoolhouse Drive location.
yeah. That's priority 1, the glycol. So, this seems to be a service.
Glycol,
not a
I
capital.
had a
plan.
question on that too. You put a whole new system in?
So, through a grant through Green Communities, they had a energy management system that we installed over at the Warren Community Elementary School. And during the installation, it was recommended that they, because the system hasn't been properly flushed in several years, that some of it, in order for the system to properly hold and for the energy management system to work effectively, they had to take the glycol that is currently in the system, that is basically saves the pipes from freezing. They took that out, and then they had to flush the system, put that same glycol back in. When they put that glycol back in, they did an analysis and said that the glycol levels were substantially low, and that they suggest and recommend that that they refill and put in some new glycol into the system, thus creating, I guess this request from Quabog. Now, the committee can debate this request as to whether or not it is a capital request or a maintenance issue. I think that there's pros and cons to either side, but I would say that it has similarity. It's very similar to what you were looking at in terms of chemicals at the sewer plant,
Yeah.
that the board had already deemed that as a maintenance issue.
Yeah, the reason why I asked, because usually when we do glycol systems and everything like that, HVAC flushing, if we're putting a new system or adjusting it, it's part of the job. We change out the glycol when we're redoing the system.
So this was just a energy management system. This wasn't,
You didn't replace anything.
we didn't replace anything. So what it did was it took the existing system and was able to regulate it. So this was acting as a regulator to the existing system, so that's keeping the temperatures all at the same levels, so that when you walk into a room at the elementary school, one room's not at 75 degrees and the other room's at 60 degrees. It's an energy management system to the existing system that will hopefully, potentially, if regulated correctly, you will have savings for energy efficiencies and utility costs.
Well, I don't know, what does everybody think? It seems like routine maintenance.
That's what I would suggest.
Every 10 years routine, but it's routine maintenance. It's not a piece of equipment, so.
I mean, if it's 20 years overdue, that should fall under the building maintenance procedures.
Mm. So are we okay with bumping this one?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that this is under maintenance too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a capital project.
Okay. So I guess we could add that to the spreadsheet.
It's on there.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I apparently got a little happy and sent it too early. So it is on
It's
there.
glycol right there, yeah.
It is on there? Okay.
Did you send those out, Don?
I didn't have
Oh.
to email them
Oh,
to you.
okay.
Actually, if I can get your,
It wasn't in red. I was looking at the ones in red.
before we leave, Dan, just write down your email. It's right above the one. So if we're not considering it, then we should probably take it off of the list. or
Oh,
put it in
same with
red.
copper reduction. Oh,
So
well,
the copper reduction I changed to be just what the pump.
It was.
would-
Oh, that's right.
We changed it
Two
to
parts.
just-
Yep, okay.
So I did change that to just the pump.
Yeah, so the
But if we're not
glycol,
going to consider the glycol,
yeah, I would make that 0 then.
we can just take it off the list. Want me to just remove it? Or do you want me to make it 0 and note that it's not?
Make it 0 and note, just so it keeps a record.
Well, I can still do total estimated cost and just funding it, just not fund it. All right.
Well, I would make it 0,
Okay.
because it inflates our total estimated cost then.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's not a capital project.
So, we have no costs on these either, on the rest, so I don't even know how we can consider.
Anything that we didn't have costs and I put in as red.
Yeah. All right, well, keep them as red,
And I put TBD on,
yeah. Was the school gonna get costs, or what was?
They're, when I asked, Mr. Duff about, estimates, he said, well, how serious are you guys willing to fund these projects? I said, well, I said, if we don't have a ballpark estimate, I don't think that the board is gonna move in any direction to
We
fund
can't.
anything.
How can we?
Yeah,
how can we
so,
fit it in?
he said it's very difficult, and I understand, where he's coming from, to get quotes out here from companies. And so he's, he said that he would try, but he's not 100% sure as to where, or when he would have them available.
Okay. All right, I mean, I would just let them know that without costs, we can't really, we need the costs to be able to fit it in, right?
Well,
I mean, we could rate it,
we
but,
could-
we're
you-
never
you-
gonna,
no, we need to address it one way or the other, because we're either gonna hit this as capital planning, or we're gonna hit it as, I'm sorry,
that's right.
as finance. And so, look, there's gonna be great arguments on both sides,
Mhm.
and I don't care what the answer is, but it's gotta be addressed. They're gonna hit the
In
town,
terms
they're
of
gonna hit the
rating
town,
it, you
right,
mean, yeah.
well, for all the projects, they're gonna hit the town with, the school needs this money. So whether it comes in under the general budget, or whether it comes in as a capital budget, it doesn't matter, but someone's gotta address it. And if all we're gonna do is punt it, all we're doing is inviting another committee and the select board to fight another fight another day.
Okay,
So, I think you can just put a stub in there. You can put a stub in there that paving is hugely expensive.
yeah,
I think we could make some kind of a stab. I mean, it would be nice if, I don't have it in front of me here, what's the scope of, I mean, is there a,
yeah, that's a.
is there a 500 square foot area that needs to be repaved, or is there a 5,000?
The whole thing,
The whole
right?
parking lot,
Yeah,
right? And so, I
Well,
think
he's
we
not only
should,
talking about that, he's talking about drainage too.
okay, so just
So
that
you're
much
talking
more,
about
that much
digging
more.
up and-
But the point is that we should be including it in our consideration, even if we don't have a good estimate.
okay,
And then, obviously, get back, say, look, we understand at some point in the coming years, the town's gonna be on the hook for these costs. And that's just the reality, right?
yeah,
And so, we are serious about funding it. We can't make any promises as to how quickly that would be. What we would probably need to do is, there'd have to be some homework done, whether we take the building manager's input, Mr. Estrella's input from it, or Steve Duff's input from it, or we go and do our own homework and walk the unsafe sidewalks. I'm not aware of any real safety concerns at the high school. I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't point work that might need to be done, maybe concrete starting to break a little bit. I'm not aware of any dire unsafe issues. I'm not, I haven't investigated it, but I'm just not aware of it, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not a valid request. I am aware that it's a little more of a dire need at the elementary school. That one's a pretty obvious that there needs to be work done over there. The glycol is just there's no reason to doubt that. They're not making this up. It's a building maintenance issue that's gonna show up either in their, they've posed it as a capital request as opposed to an ongoing operations expense. If our input to them is to put it into their operations budget, then we'll just see it next year on their budget request. If we address it as a capital thing and then put it, for example, going forwards, say we did it for the sake of discussion, and then do we want to now consider it as a ongoing maintenance, town building maintenance line item? Or do we want to wait 10, 20 years for it to become a one-time expense again? Those are all decisions we can debate and have. But for our purposes on this committee, I think we need to keep at least the stubs in there and make a decision. Are we considering this capital or are we considering it building maintenance? Because that's effectively what they've got. They're not looking to put in some new, they're not looking to put in a true, they're not building a new building, they're not doing that kind, it's not a true, they're kind of maintenance type things. They're kind of building maintenance, and you can make that case. I don't personally care, but the town's gonna be on the hook for it one way or the other over the coming years.
Yeah. So I guess I don't understand. So we determined that the glycol was operations maintenance, right?
Okay,
Okay. The other ones are, so you're saying the other ones, pavement, resurfacing, that kind of thing, could be maintenance? I mean, technically, isn't it is it a capital improvement?
It could be viewed as
It
that.
could be viewed as
Yeah.
capital improvement.
I mean,
Sure. I mean,
anytime
that's what I was
anytime you pave a road, I mean, that is considered a capital
Yeah.
investment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'd say the pavement ones are capital.
Yeah,
I'd-
okay.
I'd be very comfortable
I
with
guess,
that.
okay,
The glycol, I know, that's a debatable thing, and it's they're putting the request in.
yeah,
We can just say, include that in your budget for next year. It's operational.
yeah,
I don't think, they're not gonna care no one's gonna care if you call it operational versus capital. They're just gonna care that they get some money.
yeah,
So, and I think technically, yeah, it's more of an operational thing, like chemicals for the copper reduction plant
Yeah.
at the.
And if you
wastewater
tag one
treatment.
as operational and not the other one,
it's inconsistent.
right.
Right.
The
So
only
we need to
question
be
I have is
consistent.
the glycol, is it only every 10 years that they need it done?
Typically, lifespan is every 20 years,
Yeah.
but you should check it, and it gets monitored, and there's a halfway point where you start thinking, they give you a chart to test the system. You test the system, when you hit a certain pH level in the system, now you gotta consider starting to change the system and flushing out and putting new in. So they give you a lifespan of it. The half lifespan is where you need to start checking. Okay, and that's your 10-year mark. And from that point forward, you're gonna start degrading that solution all the way down the line. So
Mhm.
you have to start planning ahead for that change-out.
Yeah,
So that's a little bit different than the wastewater treatment plant where it's chemicals every year.
Ongoing, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
ongoing,
Yeah,
because
so
that's a
this is a little
treatment
bit
process.
different than that,
This is clearly a gray area,
yeah.
but, so whether we consider it capital or whether we consider it, operational, my vote would be that the sidewalks and paving be considered capital.
Mhm.
I'm neutral on the glycol replacement. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I see the arguments both ways. So,
One thing I will report to the committee or bring their attention to, 2 of these requests are directly at Quabog. So this would we would only be responsible for 60% of the capital over at Quabog. So, and there's no guarantee that West Brookfield would be able to do the 40% of it. So,
Just a
Yeah,
quick
that's an
correction,
interesting.
just a quick correction, Jim.
Uh-huh.
One of them is.
w-
One of them is.
I thought
No,
two of them are.
Pavement and stairs/sidewalk.
Yeah,
Okay. What about the elementary school?
that's 100.
That's ours, that's 100%.
That's 100%.
The glycol is at the high school?
No,
No.
glycol's at elementary,
Okay, so two of the requests
are elementary,
are elementary only.
and then two are
High school.
high
Oh,
school.
there's four? I apologize, I
Yeah.
was only seeing three requests, that's
Yeah.
my bad.
There's two pavement ones.
Yeah.
Well, this says resurface, so it must not be as bad as, well, it's hard to say.
There's
The other
two
one just says
pavement,
pavement.
Depends, you
one's
have to get the
stairs and
contract.
sidewalk, and then one's glycol,
The stairs and sidewalk is gonna be concrete,
concrete work.
and at the high school, I know that some of the doors that are going into the main entries and coming out, you cannot open the doors because the concrete is shifted and lifted up, and the door does not open. And I also noted that, the stairs are broken off at the edge,
Yeah,
so it does present a fall hazard coming down the stairs.
yeah.
So, I mean,
concern.
there's plenty of projects, I'm sure, that needs to be done at the high school, middle school, and I'm sure, again, they wouldn't mind if we came in and paid the whole project, but I don't know, I would caution the board on setting that precedent, because that's technically, a portion is supposed to be paid by West Brookfield.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I don't think we
Yeah,
should pay
okay,
it.
okay, yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I'm not gonna agree with that at all.
But we still can't do anything without
Pricing.
costs. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I put them in there as placeholders right now, so it's
Yeah.
on there to look at, but without cost, we can't make a determination of how to fund or what time frame or anything
Yeah,
until we have any type of costs, any estimate at all.
I mean, typically, you're gonna have to have a contractor come and measure out everything and give you an estimate on what it's gonna cost.
yeah.
And it's only gonna hold true, and I think right now, it's only 60 days that those estimates hold true.
Yeah, I
Because of
mean,
the market fluctuation.
Yeah, all of these are, they're gonna change, right?
Yeah, did I hear you correctly, Dan, about the higher priority from your perspective was at the elementary school?
Yeah,
Okay. I think what we should do is make some commitment to the school that we have an intention and a desire to start to address, to make a good faith effort to begin to address the needs at the school, at the elementary school.
Okay,
It takes away the ambiguity of something at the high school. So, we don't have
which
to
is out of
coordinate-
our control.
Which you have to coordinate with towns, that's another layer of
Bureaucracy.
bureaucracy
Yeah,
and complication. But that way, it gives Steve some reassurance that he can call a contractor and try to get him in here. And Steve's not dull to this, he understands that, we can't commit to money in 60 days or anything like that. But to do what he can to get a contractor in good faith, to come and give an estimate, to begin to, even if it's not a real quote, just an
Yeah.
estimate.
budgetary number.
Right. They don't have to-
it's-
there are state contracts for paving too that you can look at.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they can, there's guidelines, there's got to be a standard number out there, that to resurface a,
XYZ.
Yeah.
it's X
3,000
dollars
square feet.
per
and- yeah.
square yard or whatever it is of
Yeah.
repaving. And so, whether Steve gets a contractor to do it, or whether he provides a number himself, or gets his, building superintendent to do it, then I think they can provide us. But I think we should communicate that the board, this committee has some intention to get that in the queue for addressing it,
In the
Okay.
pipeline,
in the pipeline.
okay.
Yeah, we can't guarantee, we're not gonna give him money this year in all likelihood, but we wanna do it, and we know it's got some urgency to it.
Yeah,
So, why don't I throw this out there? Maybe the board can consider this. I know we're looking at, setting the projects up, right now for FY '25 budgets, in the annual town meeting. Maybe the board could potentially consider, extending an olive branch to Steve and to Warren Community Elementary by saying, hey, look at, get your quotes ready. We're serious of funding a project for you.
Yep.
We'll address it at the special town meeting in November. Get your quote in, well in advance of November, so that the board could take a look at it, whether it be a paving project over at Warren Community Elementary or some other capital project that fits in with the parameters of the board. I don't know, maybe you wanna think about that?
I don't know, do we really wanna commit ourselves to, because then if we don't bring it up at this special, then we look, like we weren't operating in good faith. I would just like to get a number and fit it into the plan.
I think the communication should be left open-ended. Like you're saying, Rich, we can't, we're not in a position to commit to a special town meeting in November.
Okay.
But I think we can commit if everyone in agreement, I'm throwing this out as a proposal, I'm not stating it should be, that we express a desire to, this particular, the elementary school repaving, however it's worded, I don't have it in front of me. This request
The
for
resurface one.
dire need of parking lot and driveway being repaved and appropriate drainage being installed. There's a desire to address this, but in order to do so, and with commitment, we need the project scoped and estimated.
Mhm.
Okay,
Does
Yeah.
that wording sound okay?
Yeah.
Yep,
okay,
And then we can put it in the plan.
all right.
Okay.
because that is gonna involve crown work, digging up all the old.
It's a big
sewage and
project.
everything. It's a big
It's a
project.
big project,
Right.
Yeah,
and then leave the other requests. You know, we're not gonna make him commit to the position of our committee is that the glycol is an operational concern.
Yeah.
And so to factor that into their budget going forward. And the other requests, again, I don't know why I only have 3 here.
So it's pavement and stairs,
Okay,
but,
Did you see them?
okay, the pavement at Quabog and the stairs at Quabog, okay.
it's just complicated.
Are complicated because of the need for
sharing expenses.
sharing with the towns, and they don't seem to be as urgent, in our opinion. And if he needs to push back on that, then he'd have an opportunity to do so.
Okay,
But we're not dropping them, and we appreciate the input, that
okay,
they're on our radar screen,
I can let them know that.
but that the elementary school one, we do have a desire to move on that,
Mm-hmm,
but we can't give a real commitment until we get it scoped.
sure,
Yeah, we can't fit it into the plan.
sure.
Is
Okay.
that fair?
Yes,
Is that
sounds
okay
good.
for you, for us to give that to Jim?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, okay,
That sounds good to everyone?
yeah, all right.
So I think we had, we have, another, did we do anything with, was there anybody else that we were waiting on? That was it, right?
Yeah, that was it. We've gone through everything. We got estimates from the senior center. Actually, are those on there?
For, what did we get estimates for?
HVAC.
Yep, HVAC.
Yep,
Is
that's
that the
in
only
there.
one? Nope,
And the
we got,
roof.
the roof.
those two
Yeah.
are on there in black.
Those are the only two, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Yep, the other ones are still in red because we don't have,
the HVAC project at the senior center, that potentially
Oh,
has
those
the
were-
potential of getting
Correct.
off of our plan, because of another grant that I'm going after for green communities. So we may be able to have that removed, possibly by next year.
Okay.
I'll know next
Alright.
year.
So do you have the senior center figures on yours?
Are they not in you? Did you get the one I sent today?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
Because that was in there.
because the senior center ones on here are all in red and to be determined.
Are you line 26?
Yep. Line 26.
Oh,
I see the-
sorry.
I see the
Okay.
roof and cooling
There's
unit.
two senior center black, and there's
Yep.
4 senior center red.
I
Right.
see, okay. Okay, maybe you're not crazy, huh?
So, the red exterior door and bulkhead, we're looking at $11,000 project for that, so that can be taken off the capital plan.
For exterior door and bulkhead?
Yeah, that's $11,000
Okay, so that's
project.
under the limit.
Yeah, so we can take that off. I'm working with Sharon to get that taken care of.
Oh, I see.
I'm just gonna remove the whole line then.
Uh-huh. And the hot water heater is also under the threshold.
The hot water heater. Gotcha.
So we can remove those. Loading dock, is to be determined. I have no idea on the pricing on that. And we don't have a number for the sewer pipe either.
What does the loading dock need?
The loading dock has some water issues. It has been penetrating and is now eroding some of the loading dock. And is penetrating some of the mechanisms within the loading dock. So I can't imagine it being over 25,000, but I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah, typically it's not. Does that have a metal plate in it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically a spring hinge. It's not that expensive to do. I don't think you're gonna be able to hit the 25,000 with it.
There's some water penetration issues that is around the structure of it. I don't know what would need to be done there. We'd have to get a contractor in there to really
Take a
dive
look at
in
it.
there.
Hmm.
So we're taking the bulkhead and the hot water heater off,
For
Right.
sure.
And then
and to be determined about the bulkhead.
Loading dock.
loading dock and sewer
I'm sorry.
pipe.
Loading dock, okay.
Thanks.
And the sewer pipe, okay.
Okay.
Right.
So I know that Ray, I don't know where I didn't see it on here, but I know that there were some requests for the parks that you were gonna bring before the committee.
It's not ringing a bell, Jim.
Okay.
Um,
Parks, capital stabilization money for, they were looking for 25,000 from the FinCom as an article, and you were gonna bring it to,
Oh, my apologies, that's ringing a bell, let me get my
Yeah.
notes. I forgot my notes.
So it wasn't discussed here, it was discussed at
Correct.
some time.
That does ring a bell, Jim,
Yeah.
and thank you for reminding me. Let me move on for a moment while I look up notes about that, and we'll come back to that.
Also within that notes, was, talking about, the purchase of a property. The Parks was looking to purchase a property, 947 Main Street. I know that was discussed at the FinCom as well, and that would be a capital, purchase,
Okay.
building.
Yeah, give me just a moment to do
Okay.
some research on this, and I'll get back to you on that. We'll circle back to that.
So was there a number for the purchase?
There was not. There was, I can say that the property is currently assessed at $177,000.
Mhm.
So somewhere
In
around
and
that,
around there.
in
Okay.
around there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yes, again, thank you, Jim. They had made they were gonna put an article forward to vote on a sum of $25,000 to be put into the capital stabilization account, the Parks and Recreation Department capital stabilization account.
The new one that we established.
So, yeah,
Where were they getting the money?
well, that wasn't determined.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just
It was,
to see if
They,
the town would consider it.
see if the
for
town,
what purposes did they want that money in there?
Playground equipment, I think it was.
updating of
Yeah.
parks.
Did they know how much the playground equipment and parks, like, what's their goal for the total fund?
I don't know if they
They never really established one.
have that.
So when we established it last year, you know, we were looking at playground equipment and, you know, and redoing parks of upwards
Okay.
of $250,000. And, you know, they were just, you know, obviously taken back by the price and different things. And that's just, you know, basic stuff. You know, there's some parks that you can get, you know, even upwards of that. And so, you know, they wanted to set aside, it was recommended at that time, before we didn't have capital planning, last year was recommended by the FinCom, that they start a departmental capital stabilization account for parks and recreation, so that they can have money built up in there, so that at some point, you know, maybe they can look to doing a design, and then look to maybe doing some type of construction in the future.
Mhm.
So would that fall into capital planning at this point?
Well, I mean, it's $25,000. It is their own little capital stabilization account. And I know that the FinCom had signaled that they thought that they would like to have capital planning take a look at it.
So I would say the fact that they're socking money away is not our issue. It's when they spend it or they anticipate spending it. Because then we would take it out. They're gonna buy something for 50 grand, right? And they have 100 in this account. Then we would do our numbers, right, to include the 50 and taking it out of their account. Right?
I can see it both ways, like if they have this big grand plan of what they wanna do, it should come before capital, and then we should suck money away like we do for the ambulance into a special stabilization account for parks, and determine where that's coming from, most likely free cash. But then but if they don't have, like if they're just putting it away for a rainy day, like they need a plan, like
Yeah.
they can't just
yeah.
sock money away to sock money away. There needs to be some sort of project or plan that they're
It's
working
heading
towards.
for a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's okay to put some money away without a purpose, but if they keep asking for 25K like every meeting, then
Mhm.
it's gonna be like, well, wait a minute.
Well, I mean, you know,
You
at some point, we're gonna have to develop like some type of policies in terms of, you know, how we're going to, you know, ask departments to, you know, when they wanna do something like this, should be spelled out in some type of, you know, rules or policies that we're gonna have to develop at some point to, say, these are what we're gonna be looking for, you know, capital planning beyond just the bylaw itself. And, you know, you may wanna say, you know, we'll fund up to 50,000, and then, you know, you have to come in with a, you know, some type of plan, of what, you know, you wanna do with it. I think the wording of the creation of the account was to make improvements to our parks, a very generic, general, term.
Yeah, the Parks Department budget, for them to do any significant improvements to the parks, it's just not gonna fit in their budget, because
Yeah,
it's expensive to do that work. So they wanted to put it into a capital ideation. And like last year, we did 25,000.
25,000, yeah.
So that was the start of this special Parks and Recreation Capital Stabilization Fund. So basically, they just had another request for another 25,000. I kind of like that notion that we'd consider it, not that we do it, but that we'd consider doing it and capping it out, like you suggested, with some number. Maybe the number's 25,000. They got 25,000. For us to consider recommending further stabilization deposits, we need a plan to know what we're heading towards.
and with the money they have in there, they could do a planning study, or they could do a design. They've got
Sure.
enough now, and then they could come back and say, okay, this thing is gonna cost 175, and here's what it's gonna look like.
One thing to
Yep.
keep in mind in the special stabilization fund, it has to be there for 3 years before we can take out, before we can dissolve the fund. So that's.
Wait, before you
that's-
can use it or dissolve it?
I believe I know I've been over this wording numerous times. I believe that it has to sit there for 3 years. The fund has to
Okay,
be
who the heck
open.
made that up?
So the fund has to be open for 3 years. I'm not sure if I'd have to look further to see if you can use the funds, but the fund has to be open, the stabilization account has to be open for at least 3 years.
Huh.
I suspect it has something to do with, so that it's an actual real stabilization fund.
Yeah,
Right.
Not just a means of doing a money grab and then next year using it.
yeah,
You know what I'm
that's what I
saying?
was thinking too.
It's
But-
probably some requirement, because someone probably pulled a fast one and did that, so they put the kibosh
You know,
on it.
I think you know, to the point that was emphasized there, I think, you know, and I think I think town council had at some point had written an opinion on this, that it, maybe the account needs to be set up, but you can take the money out before the 3-year period.
Yeah, I don't know the details of it, but that's,
I disagree with that, but.
yeah, whether
All right, well,
whether the logistics of it, how it works, is what you just said or not. The question is are we gonna entertain that as a request? I'd say this sort of becomes like a couple of the things we're already considering. Should we put a stub in that they're gonna have, that, I think when we get back to them, that they're gonna need to provide us an actual plan and intention of what's their vision.
Yeah.
They're gonna need, to really outfit a park in a nice way with a real good playground, it's gonna run $135,000. Okay, I don't know that.
That's real cheap.
Okay, all right, I'm just making up a number. And if that's the case, and their vision is that, yeah, sometime before 2030, we want this to happen, then, okay, let's put 25,000 away for the next 5 years.
mhm, yeah.
So do we add the stub? I'll tell you right now, I'm not gonna approve anything for fiscal year 25 for this. Okay, but should we put it on our spreadsheet so that we can tell them, it's on our radar screen, hold your breath, you're not getting any money this year, but it's on our, we intend to try to do something for you.
So are they,
That's the question I have right now.
so did they come to FinCom? Like, in order for it to be on our list, they
Yeah.
need to provide capital planning with
A real capital
request.
planning request.
They need to submit a request to the capital planning. So I don't know what the discussion was at FinCom.
Yeah, well, like
Just
we-
the article, right, or the fact that
There was,
wanted
they
to
wanted
use
to
it.
put an article forward, and I think they were looking for someone like FinCom to give a
Endorsement.
endorsement,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
So maybe we reach out to them, and have Parks put forward to the capital planning a formal request. I mean, obviously, it's too late for this year, but
And not for 25, we wanna put $250,000 or something, right?
What's that? Say that again.
Put a
Whatever their
250,000, what
project
they
is.
think this might cost.
Whatever their project is.
Yeah, yeah.
To put it forward.
Yeah, yeah,
Right, so they want whatever, even if it's high in the sky, whatever it is, so we can have it on the radar and plan for that, and we can help them fund this special stabilization
yeah,
without it just being plunking money away for the parks to do what they want, when they want.
yeah,
You know, it has to be a plan.
yeah, I'm good with that.
So I think that, you know, with the caveat of all of that, and, you know, putting a request in, you know, telling them that you'd have to, you know, they'd have to come up with a plan. And that, you know, this year, you know, there's not gonna be enough time to get this in here and rolled out. So next year, come in with, you know, if you have a request, come in with your request and your plan,
Mhm. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Is that?
And we're very amenable to it.
Okay,
But we just need it
But we just
in
need it,
writing
okay.
yeah, we just need the process
and
to
some thought.
have some consistency to it across the board.
Yep.
All right, I have to take off,
Okay,
so I would say continue on and,
So just one thing before we continue on, we do have a meeting tentatively set up for, what is it?
Tuesday, right?
Tuesday at
Two.
2 o'clock.
Yep,
And so that would be the last, theoretically, that would be the last day, because we would have to, you know, FinCom's meeting after, right after that, because they're waiting on, you know, going through these articles, you know, any articles that you're potentially having, looking to fund your capital plan. You know, they're gonna wanna have to make their recommendation or not recommendation, or whatever the case may be. So, you know, it looks like, you know, we have, you know, almost $1 million of
yeah,
requests here, and obviously, we're not gonna be able to afford all of them in 2025. So, you know, between now and Tuesday, the board may wanna, you know, think about, you know, okay, realistically, maybe we could do $300,000 worth of capital requests for fiscal year '25, realistically, and then try to work back that way.
well, I would say, okay, if you've got an updated sheet, send it out again,
Yep.
and then start thinking about the ratings, and then next week, let's go through ratings. And then we can say, you know, we have these 5 things and it's gonna cost this much.
Mm-hmm.
Do we wanna spend that much? And if we don't, then we gotta whittle the list down of the top
Mhm.
ones.
But I would, you know, because it's such a big span here, you may wanna think of like a $300,000 mark. And that's gonna be tough, because,
yeah,
you know, there's a lot of things here.
Yeah.
And I would not recommend, you know, taking into a capital stabilization at this point. Let's use some free cash, and then, you know, capital stabilization if we need to over time, you could do that. But, you know, let's just try to see if we can stay right here.
So can I
Okay.
ask, why do we have 600,000 capital stabilization if we're not gonna use it for our capital stabilization projects?
Well, we can in the future, but it's so much easier to do the free cash right now, because at some point, you know, it could be tougher for these projects to you know, to be approved at town meeting. You know, it's gonna require a 2/3 vote. You know, I think that capital stabilization, sometimes they look at when you take the capital stabilization out, we're gonna be putting money into capital stabilization probably in the fall, and trying to see, you know, what type of rate we're using money. So if we're gonna take money out now for capital stabilization, then we're gonna put money back in the fall. You know, I don't know if that's necessarily the best practice to do. See if we can maybe use some free cash now, and then have an assessment as to where we are in the fall.
They don't wanna see it used like a checking account.
Right.
So, I can tell you right now, we have $310,000 of projects that need to be funded that need to be funded in '25 for multiple years. So the three add-on projects from fire total that 300,000 right now.
Mhm.
And I don't know if free cash is being used in any other capacity from any other departments, or I don't know what's on the requests for free cash.
Yeah,
From any other place besides capital, but
Mhm.
if we're talking 300,000, there's no way we're gonna get projects done. If
Yeah.
we're not gonna use the capital stabilization
Yeah.
account.
yeah.
And I think it's a capital stabilization account to use it for these projects and then put it in through the special and annual town meetings when we get the other free cash or have other, access to funds to replenish it.
Yeah, I mean, I just we just built it up the last 2 years, so
Mhm.
because there was nothing in, there was very little limit in there, and now we have a high reserve. I think it would be in the best if we could see where we are, just one more cycle, and then be able to make an assessment as to, using we'll get it down to like, we're gonna do either $300,000 or $400,000, and then how are we funding this, sustainably? Whether it be through free cash or through a stabilization account.
Is
All
free
right, so-
cash all there is, or is there like an equity account or anything
No,
else?
that's it, yeah.
So I think it'll depend a lot on the ratings then
Yeah.
too. Like, what are we gonna,
Yeah,
so that's the thing, so for next week,
Make sure we come ready to address that.
yeah,
Just real quick, as you're walking out, the FinCom, this request to buy the 947 Main Street, no, not even beginning to entertain that. I would suspect that capital planning would agree with that. What's the valuation on the property, roughly?
$177,000.
Yeah, we're not buying any property.
okay.
I mean, they can put an article out there, but it's not getting my endorsement. And I don't think it's not getting the FinCom's endorsement. They were unanimous on that. I suspect I'll make a proposal that we don't consider that to recommend it either.
Okay,
You don't,
What's the
We-
address on there?
947 Main,
That's the train station.
the train station, for future park use. I love the thinking, but
mhm,
practically speaking, it's a non-starter, in my opinion.
okay.
Just my
I don't
opinion.
know if I can agree with that, but
So,
okay.
And I'm happy to hear a rebuttal to that.
I would like to give one.
Yeah,
and-
All right,
and-
I gotta go.
All right,
Okay.
thanks, Rich.
See
You can think about it.
So, the request, it has some merit and some thought behind it. And
Yeah.
what the thought process was, is that obviously, town common is very important in the
Yep.
town. And there's been discussion through the CDAC committee, as well as at the selectmen level, of redoing town common.
Yep.
And there's a lot of events that go on at town common, as everybody knows, and they would like to see more events going on at town common. And so, at some level of discussion, whether it be parks or CDAC or the selectmen level, there was a discussion of trying to acquire, that parcel. It really abuts,
Yeah.
it directly abuts the town common. We use that parking lot all the
Sure,
time for
absolutely.
town events.
Yep.
It is private property.
Yep.
There's a gentleman that owns it, he lives at the Cape, and he has had it for sale for quite some time. He was just an enthusiastic guy with trains, and he bought it for that purpose, and he's not as enthusiastic, or he's relocated from the area, and he wants to, unload the property. It does have some sense in terms of, putting that project together and making it all controllable by the town, but there is a cost to it, okay?
Right.
And the cost is obviously not just the building cost, the brick and mortar cost, whatever that would be negotiated. The assessed value is $177. I'm not saying that would be the price, but that would have to be a negotiated price. But then there's also the insurance, the maintenance, the upkeep. All of that has to be has to be
Considered.
taken into consideration, so.
Right.
Insurance costs are extremely high. I don't know if this particular building is on any historical register. I'm not aware of
Yeah.
it, but there could be, which could drive the price even more for any type of,
Is the
remodeling.
library on the historical register?
What's that?
Is the library down here on?
I'm not sure.
Because both of those buildings were built by the same,
Yeah, the stonework looks very similar.
the same.
Yeah, and the only reason why I think, there's some potential of some type of, I mean, I looked at that roof and I saw a slate roof and I don't know, I think it's a slate roof. You don't see too many slate roofs around,
Mm.
so,
Half is, half isn't.
Like-
okay.
Like I
don't know.
said, I love the
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
I'm all for the idea, but I'm completely
But
against
I
the
just
expense.
wanted the board
Yeah.
to be aware of where this came from and how this,
Right.
developed.
Yeah, and again, I don't mean to cast aspersion. I love the idea,
Mhm,
but I absolutely detest the expense that it would.
mhm.
I don't think the town has the money to spend there. It's that simple. I
Mhm.
love the idea. If a person wanted to donate the property, and all we had to do was assume maintenance and insurance costs, I'd be supportive of it. But we can't outlay 5-6 figures just to. Again, I'm torn. Love the idea. I love the vision. I love the thinking. I love the pursuit of it. But practically speaking, we just can't do it. That's all. That's just my opinion. I'm not stating that that's the way it would be, but and so I don't know if again, I don't think capital planning's role is to give recommendations the way that FinCom does. Maybe it is. I don't know. Well, we're going to give recommendations, but we don't do it in the same.
Whatever project obviously gets funded is a recommended project, right?
Right. So, maybe we can defer on making we can wait till we have the full committee next week to address that, I think. That's what I would propose.
Okay.
So where does that leave us?
So those were the items that that Parks had kind of brought up in front of FinCom that was punted to.
Thank you I
Yeah.
had forgotten about
Yeah.
that. Thank you, Jim.
So next meeting is our last meeting, so we'll need to have everything prioritized and have a discussion and be ready to go on how we're going to fund the projects, which ones we're gonna move forward with for the annual town meeting, special and annual.
Yep. Well, this would be just on the annual, right? Yep.
For the these are annual town meeting things.
Well, if anything's taken from free cash, don't we need to put it on special?
No.
Go on normal?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second,
Third,
all in favor?
aye, Dan Thibodeau.
Ray Capaco, aye?
Don Swistike, aye?
All right.